Hey besties, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video, which is my fall book recs and my fall TBR. I love making this video every year and I love watching these videos, and there's really nothing else we need to say. Let's just get straight into the book recs. I am going to have these separated by romance recs, fantasy recs, and like mystery, thriller, sci-fi type recs. And then after we talk about the recs, we're going to talk about my TBR. So let's just get into it. The first romance rec that I have for you guys is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is a super fun magical realism romance. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of this, so I'm not going to go too crazy in detail about it, but we basically just have Clementine, and her aunt has recently passed away and left her apartment, and she was very close with her aunt, and she finally is now going to be moving into this apartment, and this apartment somehow travels 7 years into her past, and she ends up meeting a man in her apartment that is literally living 7 years in her past. It is such an interesting dynamic that we have going on. It's a beautiful love story. I absolutely love this. This is a 6-star read for me. Ashley Poston is one of my favorite authors. There's only one book of hers that I have not read yet, but all of the other 3 I have absolutely loved, and magical realism I feel like is a great kind of book to read for the fall. At least me personally, I feel like once fall hits, once I start feeling the fall vibes, I am feeling like I just need magic. I need fantasy. So most of these recs aren't romance. Most of them are other things, but this is definitely a good romance for the season in my opinion. And then I actually own none of these books. I'm going to recommend a whole series, and it's actually kind of crazy that I own none of these because this is actually my favorite romance series that I've ever read. I read them all on my Kindle because they're on Kindle Unlimited, but that is the Eden series by Devoney Perry. If you're not new here, you know I've talked about this series extensively on my channel, but I feel like I haven't been talking about it as much recently because I was talking about it so much. But it's basically a romance series that every single book also has a subplot of like a mystery. There's some form of crime going on in these romances, which just adds a extra layer of intrigue and adds an extra layer to kind of make them more like fast paced. I love her writing, and I just love this specific town and these specific characters I have just grown so attached to, and I love them. But I feel like these really are perfect for the fall because they have that added layer of a mystery crime element to them. So they just give, it's just romance with a little bit more, kind of like romance with a magical realism plot. This is the same thing. It just has a little bit more to hold on to, and it kind of just gives me more like fall vibes. I think I also read the majority of these in the fall as well, so like maybe that's why I correlate them to the fall, but they're all really good. I highly recommend. I want to say I gave 3 of them a 5-star and then 3 of them like a 4.5. Don't remember 100%, but that's what I think. And then next, this is like not this is for a very niche group of people, and that is October Kiss by Kristen Etheridge. I say this is for a very niche group of people because this is literally a book that is written based off a Hallmark movie. So I wouldn't recommend reading this if you're just looking for a random fall romance. I would specifically read this if you are someone that likes Hallmark movies. I love Hallmark movies. I've actually seen this Hallmark movie multiple times and I really enjoyed it, and reading the book literally just felt like I was watching the movie but in my head and reading words on a page, and I really enjoyed it. And look at this cover. None of the other covers we're going to be showing in this video has as much fall vibes as this one. It's just really fun. It's basically about this woman named Poppy. She has tried lots of jobs and none of them have really felt like her thing, and now she's getting another job, and that is to be a nanny, and the love interest is the father of these kids. It's such a beautiful like dynamic. I just love the relationship that she forms with the kids, and also obviously the romance between her and the father. I'm blanking on his name. Ryan. It's fun. It's sweet. If you like Hallmark movies, you should give it a read. And the last couple romance recs I have for you are books by Lily Chu. We have The Stand-In. This is the only one I own physically, and then also The Comeback and The Takedown. They're all 3 kind of like interconnected standalones. They're not too interconnected. They're kind of just all in the same universe, but I have loved every single one of these. They're not necessarily a fall read, so don't go into it thinking that, but I just love them as a romance book. They are basically closed door. They're fade to black. So like, you know what's about to happen, you get very minuscule details, and then it fades to black, and then we move on. That's one thing I really love, because I've been learning about myself recently that I'm not a huge smut person, and I do prefer little to no spice. It really depends on the book and how I feel about like the characters and stuff, how I feel about the spice. But typically if it's like a series and I've had a lot of time with a group of characters, which we'll kind of get into in a coming up recommendation, then it doesn't bother me. But I don't know. Anyways, that was a tangent. This first one, the stand-in, follows a main character who gets asked to basically be the stand-in for this really famous actress so that she can pretend to be her and go to like events and red carpets while she is actually working on getting better and like preparing for this next thing she needs to do. It is definitely more than just a romance. There's a lot of just exploring this main female character's like life, and one thing I love about her writing is just that we do explore more deep topics, and I don't know, would I say this is maybe like, it's definitely has a plot of romance, and the plot of romance I would say is like pretty prevalent, but it's also kind of giving like women's fiction. We do deal a lot with like her life, same with the other two. The Comeback, basically the main male character is a K-pop singer, and I loved that one. That was a good one. And then The Takedown follows these two people who both play this like game. I don't even know how to explain it, but basically they both play this game and they're like trying to make sure that like they're at the top of the leaderboard. They come into contact, like physically their paths cross, and now they're just like playing the game together while still kind of like competing for who gets to be at the top of the leaderboard. Listen, they're all fun. I've listened to all three of them on Audible because they're all on Audible for free because they're Audible originals. So yeah, can't recommend them enough. I love her writing. She's definitely one of my favorite authors. Now we're going to be getting into the fantasy book recs, and the first one I have is actually my most recent 5-star read, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I just read this, like I've only finished one book after finishing this, but this is my most recent 5-star read. It is so, wow, this was so good. If you want to see my like full review and like thoughts and feelings, it's in my most recent video, which was me reading only fantasy books for a week, so you can go watch that. Basically, this is a gothic fantasy, and the magic system in this universe is that we have this deck of cards, and each card has a different ability. We have the first card in the deck is very rare, and there's only one card with that ability. And then when you get to card 12, there's like many cards of that one card. Does that make sense? Anyways, the king of this like society is trying to collect at least one of each card to break a curse that has settled over this society. I'm not gonna tell you what that is. You can get into that when you read this, but our main female character also has a monster trapped in her head. And also, I didn't know going into this book that there was a subplot of romance to this, but there is. Y'all need to go watch that vlog. I am obsessed with him. He's now one of my new favorite book boyfriends. Wow, I love him, and I literally cannot wait to read the second book. So, highly recommend. Now, this next rec is probably the most important rec that I'm going to be talking about in this entire video. This is something special. This is my favorite series that I have ever read. These are my favorite books that I have ever read, my favorite couple, my favorite characters. Something changed in the literal makeup of my being when I read this series, and if you know me, you know what I'm about to say, and if you don't, I'm gonna tell you, and that is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. So the first one is Kingdom of the Wicked, and then we have Kingdom of the Cursed and Kingdom of the Feared. These are special editions. I do have my original black covers up there, as you can see, but I left those there because the first one, the cover is rhinestoned. Took like a lot of hours of my life, but I seriously could probably sit here and try to convince you to read this for like an hour and without stopping. But to basically summarize what this is and why you should read it, our main female character, Amelia, is grieving the loss of her sister. Her sister has been brutally murdered, and she is now basically on a path of vengeance to find who did this to her sister and get revenge, because her sister was her best friend. Now, not to mention that Amelia and her sister Victoria are witches, and they kind of have to keep themselves secret in this town that they live in because witches are not looked at fondly. So that's a big plot point in this series, is that witches are not looked at fondly. But what else isn't looked at fondly, especially by the witches, is the wicked. And who does she come across? Wrath. And what is he? One of the wicked. And what are the wicked? They are the representation of the 7 deadly sins in form of a demon, but hot demons. Hot demons. Yeah. That rule over hell. I feel like explaining this, I sound crazy for this being my favorite thing I've ever read, but the romance in this is absolutely beautiful. There is a lot of talk of grief in these books, which is something that did deeply resonate with me at the time of me rereading the first one, because I have reread this. I reread this in January. Literally all 3 of these are 6-star reads for me. I love them. I will go ahead and say, warning, the 3rd one does end up having quite a bit of smut in it. The first 2 don't, but the last one does have quite a bit of smut, but it makes sense for the way that these books go and the way the plot and the story progresses. So I will say that, but that is just a warning. There is a lot of smut in this last one, but the plot twist, the romance, the whole magical, I can't even describe how good this is. And if you read it and you hate it, do not tell me. Lie to my face. Okay, and the next 2 book recs are actually my next like favorite fantasy series I've ever read. This is still ongoing. The 3rd book is not currently out, but that is Heavy is the Crown and Deadly is the Throne by Lindsay J. These are criminally underrated, criminally underread. I randomly found Heavy is the Crown on my Kindle for like $4.99 back in 2023, and the literal first sentence of the book hooked me. Hold on. Literally the first sentence goes as follows. Suddenly there was this weird pressure all around her, grasping, pulling, thinking. And that was genuinely enough to make me think, what is going on? And wow, when I say these books are incredible. I have a whole reading vlog on my channel of me rereading Heavy is the Crown and reading Deadly is the Throne for the first time after it came out. So if you want to see more on these, that's there. But to give you a very basic rundown of what these books are about, we follow 2 modern teens, Shay and Olin. They're best friends and they end up mysteriously falling into this medieval realm. They end up getting separated on opposite sides of a centuries-long war and have to figure out how to find their way back to each other and then find a way home. Oh my god, these are so good. I'm gonna make myself stop, but like, please genuinely read them. They are criminally underread and criminally underrated. Moving along, we have a little duology that is super fun, and that is the Grimrose Girls duology. The first one being the Grimrose Girls and the second one being The Wicked Remain. These are super fun young adult dark academia books that follow 4 friends who have a friend that ends up dead. The school ends up ruling this as a suicide, and these girls are like, absolutely not, and they do some digging and end up finding out that she is not the first girl at this boarding school to end up dead, and that they somehow all link back to ancient fairy tale curses. These were so fun. I have actually debated heavily rereading these, even though there's so many books that I want to get to in this lifetime and read, because these were so good, so enjoyable. The plot twists were so fun. I feel like I've genuinely have never seen anyone talk about these. I've never seen anyone else read them, and I cannot recommend them enough. I think they are so fun, so good. If you're a dark academia person, I think you would really love them. If you're someone that loves like OG like Disney movies, like I'm talking like Disney princess movies like Cinderella, Snow White, that type of thing, you would really enjoy these. They're so fun. Highly recommend. And the last fantasy rec I have is the first in a series, but I've only read this book. I haven't continued the series yet, but that is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Again, I have not currently read Legendary and Finale, but I really enjoyed this one. I read this about a year ago, and I just remember it being so whimsical, so cozy, but there is so many plot twists in this book. The plot in general is just so fun. The backdrop, so fun, but there is also a little subplot of romance in this that is also really fun. I'm really looking forward to continuing the series, but I really enjoyed this. I think this just has amazing vibes and it is perfect for the fall time, so I really can't recommend it enough. To be continued though on if I would recommend the rest of the series, but currently I would definitely recommend this first one, Caraval. I think I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, moving on to the last little portion of Rex, which is going to be like some mysteries, some thrillers, and one sci-fi book. So the first one is The Lake by Natasha Preston. I really enjoyed this book. I saw a lot of reviews after finishing this where people really hated the ending, but me personally, I loved it. I thought it was literally so good and so fun. This book basically follows 2 teens that are going back to a summer camp that they went to when they were younger, but they've never been back because something bad happened. They did something bad and they've kept it a secret all this this time, but they come back to be camp counselors, and now they're getting these mysterious messages from the lake saying, we know what you did, stuff like that. And like some really creepy, really weird stuff starts happening. This is super fast paced, definitely a bit creepy, and the ending and the plot twist at the end of this is genuinely so insane. It's not even funny. Not even funny. Like actually the end of this, chef's kiss, 10 out of 10, loved the end. Next book is the sci-fi book. I said that I have one sci-fi rec, and that is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is very outside of my comfort zone. I want to start off by saying I think this is still to date the literal only sci-fi book I've ever read, but I really enjoyed it. This is very mindfucky. This is very just complete. Yeah, it's honestly just a complete mindfuck. This book basically follows a main character named Jason, and he's essentially kidnapped and then drugged, and then he wakes up and life is not the life that he knows. His son doesn't exist. His wife is not his wife, and all of these little things are different, and he's no longer your average college professor, but is in fact a celebrated genius who has discovered something that is basically impossible, and that's really all you get from the synopsis. This is just such a wild ride. It's definitely a bit of a slower burn, at least it was for me. If you're someone who's never read a sci-fi book before, or it's just kind of outside of your comfort zone in general, this definitely can feel very slow at the beginning, but I will say the ending and everything you get by the time you finish this book is definitely worth the time put into reading this. This was really fun, and I actually have two besties on here. Faith and Ashlyn love his work, and I have seen them talking about other books by him. Resurgence, I know, is one of them. I think that's what it's called. Confused. Is Pikes also another one? I don't know. I'm gonna look that up later, but it's honestly kind of making me want to potentially read more books by him, but we shall see. But this was crazy. And then the next book is a young adult mystery thriller where the plot twist actually got me, and let me just say, it is one thing that actually heavily determines how I rate a mystery thriller on if the plot twist shocks me or if I guess the ending, and this one actually shocked me. I was not expecting it at all, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Bestie Faith also thoroughly enjoyed this book, and that is That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This book basically follows two POVs, the first one being a girl that we don't know her name, and she also doesn't know her name. She wakes up on the side of the road, bruised, bloody. She does not know what happened to her. She doesn't know who she is. And then at the police station later on, some man ends up coming in, panicked, looking for her, saying her name is Mary and claiming to be her father. And he also has all of the proof that this is his daughter. And so she goes back with him. And that's kind of where that plot point goes. But then we also follow the POV of Drew, who has been searching endlessly for his girlfriend Lola, who went missing. And so we're basically following him, following these leads and trying to find out what happened to his girlfriend and where she is. But there's the added layer that the people in this town, and specifically like the head of the police, kind of suspect that he's the one that made his girlfriend go missing. And so no one really likes him. Nobody believes him when he brings these leads to them. It's a whole ordeal. This book was super, super good. I think I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think this would be really, really good for the fall. And then lastly, we're going to recommend two series. We're going to recommend the Inheritance Games trilogy and the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I still need to read the last book in both of these series, but I love the Inheritance Games and the Hawthorne Legacy so much. These are very, very fun books. This series basically follows Avery, and she ends up receiving the entire inheritance of this billionaire that she's never met before. And in order to actually secure this inheritance, she has to live at his mansion for a certain period of time. And his entire family that has now been disinherited is living at the house as well. And she ends up meeting his 4 grandsons, who we begin to know and love a lot throughout this series. But there is riddles and games and so much mystery and so much fun to this series. I am really excited to finish the last book in this trilogy and then go on to continue the books in this universe like the Brothers Hawthorne and such. But these first 2 books I have really, really enjoyed, and I think these are perfect for the fall. Same thing kind of goes for the Naturals, but this one is obviously very different. This one follows these teens that are basically a part of this like secret FBI agency that uses these teens to help solve cold cases because they have this like uncanny ability for certain things. Like our main female character in these books, Cassie, she is a profiler. She has this natural ability to be able to profile someone at an extreme level. We have someone else who is basically a human lie detector and can just tell when someone tells lies. We have someone who reads body language and like emotions on people's faces, like instantaneously. Like they just do these things without even trying. And the like plot twists in these books and the way the mystery of whatever case they're trying to solve goes throughout these books is so good. And we also get to learn a little bit more, not only about Cassie, whose perspective we're in throughout the whole series, but we also get to learn a little bit more about each of our fellow naturals throughout each of these books, which is an aspect that I've really been loving. I only have the last book of this series left and I'm very excited to finish it because I've really been enjoying my time with it. And also Jennifer Lynn Barnes, her writing is so captivating, super fast paced, always short chapters, and just very, very enthralling reads. So those are the last of the book recs. I feel like that honestly took a while, but now we are going to get into my personal TBR for the fall. I feel like typically I kind of go a little crazy with my fall TBR, and though there is a good amount of books we're about to talk about that's on my fall TBR, I feel like it's very realistic at the same time for me to do this within the next few months. So starting off very, very strong, I am going to be reading 2 Twisted Crowns, and I say going to be because I'm literally going to start this today, but this is definitely very anticipated for me since One Dark Window is my most recent 5-star read. I cannot wait to read this. It is only a duology, so this is the last book in the series, so not only am I going to be finishing a series that I have started, but I'm also going to be able to just know everything else that this universe has to offer me. Again, what I was saying earlier, he is one of my favorite book boyfriends. Raven. I literally am obsessed with him. I love him, but also the first book ends on the hugest cliffhanger, so I just cannot wait to get into this book, dive in, and finally get to know how this universe and how this story is gonna come to a close. I cannot wait. I think I'm really starting to learn about myself that I love a gothic fantasy, because not only are these gothic fantasies, but so is Kingdom of the Wicked, which is my favorite series. So yeah, and I love these covers. They're so stunning. So that's the first book on my TBR. I'm very excited. I'm starting this today. It will be in a reading vlog, so stay tuned. And next book, this is also highly, highly anticipated for me, and that is Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. This is in the same universe as Kingdom of the Wicked, and also going with on my TBR, I would love to continue my reread because I have reread the first in the series, and I would really love to reread the last 2 as well and do full annotations in these and just revisit my favorite stories and my favorite people. But these books, this is the first book in a whole new series that we're starting. So we have this, we have Throne of Secrets, and then Throne of Nightmares comes out the beginning of next year. And we are basically in these books going to be exploring a different one of Wrath's brothers, a different one of the 7 deadly sins that is represented in these demons that rule over hell. So this one follows envy. I can't remember. I think Throne of Secrets is gluttony, and then Throne of Nightmares, I feel like it should be really obvious based on the title who that is, but I literally am blanking. But I have been so badly putting off starting this because I'm just scared that I'm not gonna love these books as much as I love Kingdom of the Wicked, but I'm very, very excited at the same time. It's so heavily anticipated. I feel like I have such high expectations for this series because I just already love the universe. I love the characters. I have already grown to form some form of love for Wrath's brothers while reading Kingdom of the Wicked, so continuing this universe and reading this is going to genuinely be probably, like, this sounds dramatic, but probably such an incredible and magical experience for me, and something that's probably going to mean so much to my soul, which is scary, but I'm very excited about it. I can't express how much I love Kingdom of the Wicked, like that series, and Carrie Maniscalco has single-handedly changed my life with it. So next up, I would love to continue the Harry Potter series finally, because the first Harry Potter book is actually the only one that I've ever read, but I love Harry Potter, okay? I am a Potterhead. I am obsessed with Harry Potter. It is definitely my thing, but yeah, I've literally only read the first book. That's actually what got me into reading. I was never a reader as a child, and then I ended up reading the first Harry Potter book back in 2022, and that's what got me into reading. And when I had read that, I then picked up the second book, and I got maybe 100, maybe a little less pages into this second one, and then I just never finished it because I picked up a romance book for the first time, and then I just didn't put romance books down for a while, and I just since have not picked this back up and continued it. And I would really love to read these books and just see the content that I am missing in the movies from the books, because because we all know about 9.999% of the time, the book is always going to be better. Next, we have a mystery thriller that has been on my radar, physical TBR, mental TBR for a really long time. Y'all kind of just saw it, but that is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I am really excited to read this. I remember seeing so many people read this, hype this up, give this 5 stars when this came out. I want to say this came out in 2024 or 2023, but I just remember seeing everyone and their mom reading this and rating it 5 stars, and I still haven't, and I am very excited to do so. This book, from my knowledge, follows 2 women who share a birthday. They're celebrating their birthday at the same restaurant, and one of the women is like super successful. She has a podcast where she talks to other women about their success stories, and this other woman kind of becomes like obsessed with her, convinces her to let her go on her podcast because she's about to have this big success that she wants to talk about. And I'm just gonna have to guess that this other woman starts to like try to take over the other woman, like the podcast runner's life. I'm not sure, but I'm very intrigued. I've heard the audiobook is really good, so I'll probably go back and forth when I read this of listening to the audiobook and reading the physical copy, but I am very excited. That is probably my most anticipated mystery thriller on my TBR, and my most anticipated romance book on my TBR is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Like I was saying earlier, there was only one book of hers, of her magical realisms, that is, that I haven't read, and that is this one. And this is going to be perfect for the fall because the magical realism in this book is she can see and talk to ghosts. Enough said. That's all I know about this book. That's all I'm going to continue to know, but she is seriously one of, if not my favorite romance author. Literally all 3 of her other books, 7 Year Slip, A Novel Love Story, and Sounds Like Love, are all 6-star reads for me, so can't wait to read this one. Most anticipated romance on my TBR for the fall. And then we were kind of talking about these series earlier, but also on my fall TBR is The Final Gambit and Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I want to finish out these series. I know that she is currently writing more books in the universe that this follows, but this is the end of the original trilogy because The Brothers Hawthorne starts a whole nother series where we're not following Avery. She's not our main character. So like, I want to close out this series and kind of see how this little trilogy ends. I'm super excited. And then as for this, I just actually read Killer Instinct and All In not too long ago, like literally within the last month. Really enjoyed both of them, and I can't wait to finish this series and just see how it ends. I have a very big sneaking suspicion that we're going to learn a lot more about Leah in this book, and I grew very, very fondly of her while reading Killer Instinct and All In, so I'm very excited to hopefully learn more about her in this book. This is actually, I am planning for this to be in a reading vlog very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm really excited to continue both of these series, actually finish both of them, so that'll be really fun. I also think Bad Blood also has a short novella in it. That could be wrong, but I think it does. Anyways, next up, legendary Stephanie Garber. Was talking about this earlier, but I'm very excited to continue this series. I also just really would love to get through the Caraval trilogy so that I can start the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, because that is typically the trilogy of the 2 that people love more, but they are in the same universe, kind of how the Inheritance Games is in the same universe as the series that the Brothers Hawthorne is kind of starting. I actually don't fully know how that situation works, but anyways, they're in the same universe, and the events in the Caraval trilogy happen first, like chronologically these happen first. I've seen a lot of people skip this trilogy and just go straight to Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I personally didn't want to do that because I do love reading things in chronological order, and if I would have really loved the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, I would have never been able to get myself to go back and then read this. So I am hoping to read this and also potentially finish this trilogy this fall so that I can start the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy and see if I love Caraval or Once Upon a Broken Heart more. So I don't really know what the plot point in this one is going to be, but I also don't think I could really even tell you guys, even if I wanted to, because it may spoil things from the first book. Next up, we have the only other romance book on my fall TBR. Are we shocked? Are we shocked? Your girl has literally been in the opposite of a romance mood recently, which is crazy, but that is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I really have been so excited to read her work for so long, and I've been putting it off for a very long time, but I just really feel like I will love her writing and love her storytelling. I'm pretty sure her books are also like low spice. I could be wrong about that, but I think that they are. And I have just also seen so many of you guys say, since I loved Funny Story so much and I loved Emily Henry's writing, that I would love her writing potentially even more. So I'm very excited to give this a read. I actually have no idea what the plot of this is. I don't know what the tropes in in this are. I think I want to keep it that way. I love going into books blind, but especially like just a fun little romance like this. Well, this might actually not be that fun. This could be very heavy. I don't know. But I feel like especially with just like a romance, it's even more fun to go into it blind because I feel like there's not as much to uncover than there would be like a fantasy. Does that even make sense? I don't know. TBR, next one. And then the last two kind of books-ish we're gonna talk about is also continuing series. First one is, if you're not new here, you're gonna be like, Tiffany, you still haven't finished that book. I still haven't finished that book. That is A Court of Silver Flames. I got to page 460 of this book and then got in a big slump and put it down, and that was over a year ago. And then I started listening to the audiobook and started trying to read this again the beginning of the year, maybe the end of last year, and then I didn't get very far. I am just really struggling, honestly, to stay attached to this story. I know some people absolutely love Nesta. I personally really loved following Feyre. She is definitely my favorite. I definitely resonate with her the most, but I am also the baby of the family, which Feyre is, and I think that is really ironic because my sister Tamiko loved this. She loves Nesta the most, and you know what Nesta is? The oldest child. You know what my sister is? The oldest child. So I think it fits. I think there's a trend, but I love following Feyre and seeing her and the romance that she has. So this one has just been a little bit harder for me to follow, but I have kind of been missing this universe, so I do really want to finish this. And then going on, you know, it's not on the same track, but it is, if you know what I mean. I would really need to continue the Throne of Glass series. I have read Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass, so the next one I need to read is Crown of Midnight. So I really want to continue the series and get further into this and just see what this is all about, because I haven't read much. Obviously there's 8 books, I've only read 2 of them, and one of them is just a bunch of novellas, and then the first book, Throne of Glass, is very much the first book in a fantasy series, so that was kind of slow, didn't grasp my attention too much. So I'm really excited to continue and see if I'm gonna potentially love this series more than ACOTAR or not. I feel like I'm gonna be an ACOTAR girl, but we shall see. And I've also been seeing so much stuff about Crescent City recently that it kind of makes me want to read that, but I don't own any of those, and I'm not going to put pressure on myself to read those at this point in time because they're so big, and I still need to finish this series and finish this. So yeah, that is all the books on my fall TBR, and obviously all the book recs that I have to talk about in today's video. This may have been a lengthy video. If it was, I don't know how long this is going to end up being after I edit it, but if you're still sitting here with me, thank you. I love you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are not already, because we have a lot of fun over here and we want you to join the fun. And with that being said, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Do I like what I just said? Whoa, whoa. Whoa, my back hurts. Would you believe it? My back is literally killing me. Guys, I'm too pregnant for this, and I'm not even that, well, actually I am kind of. Follow this. Whoa, oh my God. Why am I struggling so hard? Ew, why did I say that like that? Cut. Try again. Whoa. Surely throat. Whoa, whoa. And, okay, hello. Hannibal. Whoa. As, much file. Whoa. Can I speak? About almost a year ago. Whoa. Huh? Whoa. Hello. Whoa. She don't know. Whoa. And action. Oh my God. Why can I not do this right now? I am struggling. I literally want to give up. I literally want to give up right now. What did I do? Third time's not a charm. Hello? The final gambit. That is, no. Oh my God, hello. Whoa. Can I like speak? Whoa. Bye.